Hey y'all, today's sponsor for this episode is Fashion Nova, an online-based company that sells high-quality and affordable clothing for people of all sizes. Why stress about finding those perfect fitting jeans when you can go to fashionnova.com and place your order in today? Fashion Nova's philosophy is that it doesn't matter what walk of life your booty comes from, whether it be silicone-based, fix-a-flat, or 100% organic fat. Fashion Nova is the perfect fit for you. And with that being said, let's start the show.
Hey, mood up, it's too down. Yeah. Hey, stress up, it's too down. Hey, baby, it's too down. Yeah. Hey, that me, it's too down. Hey, baby, got me, it's too down.
Welcome to the very first episode of Brown Sugar. I'm your host, Bailey Barlow, and next to me I have the beautiful and wise Kennedy Whitford. Today we're going to do a segment on powerful women. Our woman of choice is the one and only Gabrielle Coco Chanel, who also once said, "The best things in life are free, the second best are very expensive." What do you think that means, Kennedy?
Well, first, merci beaucoup, Mr. Bailey, for that wonderful introduction. So excited to be talking about such a wonderful and powerful woman in the world of fashion who pushed boundaries and broke barriers. Well, let's see. Now that quote, I don't know about the expensive part. I understand the best things in life are free, but I guess everybody loves things that are pretty. And most times the expensive things are the prettiest. So I guess, I don't know.
Well, for me, when I think of the best things in life being free, I think of the love from people, peace, a piece of my mind, and a good ass whooping. Now, when I think of the second best things in life being very expensive, I think of college tuition, student debt, children, and children can also repeat that cycle, and a really, really good ass whooping.
Oh my God.
I think it's safe to say that everyone knows what the brand Chanel is. She did a great job at leaving her legacy partially behind. No shade, but not too many people know who Coco Chanel is.
That's because they think of the perfume.
Yeah, or the brand, but at the very least they've heard the name or get her mixed up with Ice Cube's wife.
Iced tea.
Sorry. Ice Cube, I mean, they go together.
Iced tea.
You can't have iced tea without an ice cube. But what I'm saying is this goes for pretty much every single name brand. If you think of Nike, nobody knows who created Nike unless you're a sneakerhead, or Adidas, Balenciaga.
I don't even know what that is.
Right. Or like Versace, you know, and Versace is actually the last name of the guy. I forget his name, but Donatella Versace is the owner of it now. But all these, you know, name brand names. And
wait, wasn't he the guy that was killed and his sister like runs it now?
Yeah, I think he died in his mansion. He was shot. He opened his front door
and
he was shot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking
that's
about.
terrible. But yeah, so all these name brands, and people don't know the history behind it. They don't know the people, and I feel like it's hard for designers to create their brand and still have themselves remembered by what they created.
True.
And so I looked into Coco Chanel. We've been doing research on her for a while now, and she's a Leo. Do you know anything about Leos at all?
They're leaders, and she was a leader. She was fearless, but yes, Leo's the lion.
The lion, yes, the lion. That makes perfect sense because she was cutthroat.
Oh, she was.
She was very cutthroat, ruthless. She reminds me a lot of Meryl Streep's character from A Devil Wears Prada.
I bet you that's where they based it from.
It had to. It's too perfect.
Yes,
it's too perfect. So she was born poor, and her mother died, and she was born in France. I forget which town. What do you know? Which town she was born in?
Oh my goodness, I can't even pronounce it.
Oh, it's okay. If you can, don't even worry about that. Then if you can't, don't
Start
butcher the name. But yeah. So her mother died, and Chanel claimed that it was from tuberculosis.
but they said it was really had to do with like a respiratory illness.
Something like pneumonia,
Yeah,
right?
like in combination with pregnancy and being in poverty. They lived in like a small 2-bedroom shack, and it was
like the slums. Of
yeah,
France. Yeah,
3 girls, 2 boys, and her parents were never married.
Oh, no, really?
No, never married.
That's interesting. So yeah, and then her father, after her mother died, her father abandoned them, and so she went to an orphanage with her siblings went somewhere else, but I know the girls
Yes.
stayed together.
The girls went to the orphanage at the convent, which was weird. I didn't know the convent had orphanages. And the boys went to live with a nearby farm, I
Okay.
guess, to work as like servants there.
And then Chanel had an older sister that mysteriously, I quote, mysteriously became pregnant,
yes, right.
and she ended up dying from childbirth.
Supposedly, there's 2 stories to that. Also, they said she died because she was so in love with her husband, and her husband had a mistress that she found out, and she killed herself. But there's like an old woman that lives down the street who said the baby was actually Gabrielle's.
Ooh, that's some tea.
Yes.
Ooh, wow. But I wouldn't rule out either or, because it makes sense, because she, after her sister died, she took in, his name, it starts with an A. It's I forget his name, but she took him in as her own, and she sent him to a boarding school
Yes, in England.
in England for him to pursue education. So she took care of him. Which is really good, because she didn't have to,
I believe she left everything to him, Andre. Yes,
Andre. When she died, she left everything to him.
I think Andre got everything. They said she loved him like he was her own.
Oh wow!
But she didn't want him to live in Paris with her, so she wanted him to get a better education in England instead.
Right. Interesting. And so while she was in the orphanage, when she turned 18, she ended up going to a nun school of some sort.
Well, they taught her how to sew. That's where she learned her craft.
Right.
They taught her everything.
And then she became a seamstress by day and a cabaret singer by night.
Yes.
Later, like shortly after that. And so her famous song was
I can't pronounce that.
I can't pronounce Coco. I was like, it's Kiki Kui.
And that's supposedly the rumor of how she got her name. But Coco was really, she was shady in some ways. She didn't want people really knowing, seem like too much exactly about her. So she would tell people that it was a nickname that her father gave her until something better came along. But then she sang the song. And most people say it's because of the song. So she would flip back and forth.
And that adds up to what I was just about to say. In some articles I've been reading, the people that have interviewed her say that she contradicts herself a lot, because she'll say one thing and then something else will come along and it says a completely different thing, or a record will say something otherwise. And so I think she was trying really hard to keep her past under wraps. Like, she was like, the old Gabrielle died. I'm not Gabrielle anymore. I'm Coco. This is a new person. I don't know who Gabby is.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah, and so we're going to move on to fashion. So when she first started sewing, she started making hats. She opened up a store that...
with the help of her financial benefactor.
Her sugar daddy. But hey, I ain't mad at you, girl. But yeah, so she... But if you think about it, though, it would be nearly impossible for Coco, a woman of her time, a woman of her status, for her to be self-made 100%.
Exactly.
In order for her to be self-made, she would have to be born through money. Like, she had to come from money, and she didn't. So it makes sense for her to marry rich and to find these other men, because they had something to offer, and she had goals. And in order for her to execute what she needed out of life, she found people that could help her. It's about who you know and what you can get out of them.
Exactly. They said, like, at one point in time, she had like 4 businesses going at once. She had one of her other benefactors introduced her to a person that made perfume. So she had the hats going. She was doing the designs with the dresses and the infamous jersey dress. And she had
we had to go over that too.
She had all these little things going on all at once, which I don't know how she did it.
It's a lot.
Especially in the 1920s.
Yeah, especially too, because, so with the jersey dress, I wanted to touch on that. The jersey dress became successful because she just made it on her own, and then she just walked out because it was cold. She wore it because it was chilly that day.
Yes,
right?
It was warm. And another thing too, which was fascinating finding out, is that because during the war, expensive materials were harder to find, and jersey was easier to find and less expensive, and it draped on you very well. So she figured, why not? Why not make something that extenuates the busy, active woman?
Yeah.
I can wear it and not be. She broke the barriers to where there are no more corsets and tight binding clothing and everything cinched, and she embraced the boyish look and the loose fitting clothes.
That fits with the theme of the 1920s, the flappers, where they wore boxy cut fitting clothing.
Yes.
Not fitting clothing. They wore articles of clothing that were box cut, loose fitting, where it didn't extenuate the breast or your hips, and the short haircuts.
Yes.
And so Coco Chanel actually started doing that around 1917, and that's when she started to evolve into her final form. She cut her hair and made the effort to look very boyish. This was even more trendy during the 20s. And so she cut her hair because it was just too much. Her hair was past her back at one point in time. And so she ended up cutting it off because it was just too much for her to handle. And I think it was a good move for her because it clearly shows that because of her doing that and being the fact that women loved her and followed her, they followed into that same lane. And so I'm pretty sure she had a huge influence over the 1920s when it comes to fashion, because
a trendsetter.
That was her peak right there. Was like
Yes.
in the 1920s through the 40s, 50s ish.
She was a trendsetter for sure, and that's how the trousers began. When she didn't want to go to that the beach party, she didn't want to wear a swimsuit because she didn't want to be exposed. So she wore a pair of one of her sailor French trousers, and then she started designing them. And she was one of the first women to actually walk out in pants, because wearing pants was okay if you were working a job, taking over for the men during the war inside the factories and had overalls, but you couldn't dare wear them out in the open.
That's very true. And so for me personally, I'm just kind of like, that put a bad taste in my mouth, because you're over here breaking gender norms over here with like the short haircuts and the boyish outfits and wearing, taking men's suits and altering them. But you say something like that, it contradicts yourself once again.
It does a little bit. A lot of her designs were male influenced and men influenced. Even she made the sailor shirt popular, the stripes,
the blue and white.
She made them popular, and it was like, how could you not want that? But she was all about class as well. So maybe to her it wasn't as classy to go out in that. But she would. But I guess it wasn't okay for dinner.
And she said that it's a must for a woman to be classy.
Yes.
She did say that. And so now we're going to move ahead. We're going to talk about how she has influenced society. So we went over the trousers, but I wanted to talk about the pale skin trend. Where, where the pale skin was in, it was a sign of class, of money, because if you were darker, you were associated with being poor and being outside of like working the land.
Exactly.
So Coco Chanel was on the French Riviera on a cruise, and she became sunburned. And so when she came back, people saw her tan, and they were like, oh my gosh, Coco has a tan. I want a tan too. So she made tans very popular. So being pale wasn't so in. It was okay to be tan. And so I don't think that was her being like a social justice activist or anything. She just happened to get sunburned. You know what I mean?
She had a lot of people who were looking for her to basically, she would monkey see, monkey do. They saw her do it, and I was like, oh my goodness, that must be the new it thing. Coco's doing it, so that must be the next it. Even in 1921, when she came up with her infamous perfume, that's been the number one selling perfume since Marilyn
Monroe.
Since Marilyn Monroe mentioned it.
Yeah, so because Marilyn made it famous. Coco Chanel didn't make Chanel No. 5 famous. Marilyn made it famous because in the interview, the press asked her what she wore to bed, men being perverts. Exactly. And she says, oh, I wear Chanel No. 5.
Exactly. Even how it got its name. Like, she decided to put her name on it because she was a bit of a narcissist. And 5, she was obsessed with the number 5. 5 was her favorite number.
It was her lucky number.
What's
the history behind that?
Well, so she was very superstitious, and when she got out of the convent, she went to a fortune teller. And the fortune teller told her that the number 5 would be a lucky number for her. So she took that and ran with it. Every design that she released was on the 5th month, 5th day. Everything had to have number 5. So when they came out with several samples when she was looking through all the scents, at first it was the first man-made scent because everything else was always derived from natural floral ingredients. She decided to go a different way, which that was also another groundbreaking thing. but she just chose. They gave her 10 samples, and she's like, number 5.
Without smelling it.
Without smelling it, number 5.
She just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That one.
5. That one. And they're like, you don't want to? Nope, I don't need to. I've always been lucky with the number 5, and she wasn't lying.
Wow, that's wow. So she just trusted her intuition, her instinct.
Yes.
That's amazing, and look where it's gotten her.
Exactly.
$7 million, you know, which is her net worth when she was alive, and she's worth $19 billion.
She's about $19 billion now.
And she's dead.
And she's dead. And her styles just keep going. Even celebrities started to flock to her designs. She had got into it a bit. Well,
with the old Hollywood stars, right?
With old Hollywood stars, she had been designing. Yes, but she came out with the little black dress. She made black elegant, and there was a person she was in feud with, and they kept asking her because she said, well, black, she's like, I don't want to dress him in green. I don't want to dress him in these colors. She's like, these god awful colors. I think black is elegant. Black and white are the absolute. So why not? And she started really decorating her dresses with costume jewelry. She's the one who made costume jewelry big.
Because back then, it was said that if you wore costume jewelry, you were poor, you couldn't afford it. So it was a big taboo.
Exactly.
So you had to flaunt all your jewelry. But not at once, though. You should never wear all your jewelry all at once, because it will show everything that you have, and then recycling outfits. And I'm sure it's the same for jewelry.
Exactly.
But so with her, she would always put 2 expensive jewels with her costume jewelry. So if it's a line of pearls, there's 2 expensive pearls. Or if there's like, you know, glass diamonds and jewels and emeralds and stuff, there's 2 of them are at least real. Yes. At the least.
She made it acceptable to wear the costume jewelry. And the designer had told her, he's like, well, my dear, what's with all the black? Are you in mourning? Are you going to a funeral? She's like, yes, yours. Like, she was very quick with it. Like, she came back with the snaps, like...
We just spoke about Coco Chanel, her legacy that she's left behind, and how she has impacted society, what exactly she does. So thank you, Kennedy, for discussing Coco Chanel with me for my very first podcast. I really appreciate it. And so with that being said, that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody. This has been Brown Sugar.
Stroll down the runway, another payday, cover of magazine. And when they see me, they wanna be me. I am a fantasy. Cover girl, put the bass in your walk. Head to toe, let your whole body talk. Cover girl, put the bass in your walk. Head to toe, let your whole body talk. Chinese, red carpet TV, valet my limousine, box office sweetie, an Oscar nominee, now watch me snatch a trophy.